And I'm happy to introduce our first speaker, Elliot Foote, who will talk about community-based peer-led invitation to change support and skills groups for families impacted by addiction. And I think a very important topic, and the floor is yours.
Right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am so happy to be at this conference and to be speaking to all of you. This has been such a wonderful experience yesterday and today. My name is Elliot Foote. I'm the program manager at CMC Foundation for Change, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit in the United States. We operate in New York and Massachusetts. And today I'll be talking a little bit about a project that I and my colleagues ran last year, in which we had 5 community-based peer-led support groups for families of someone struggling with substance use. So our organization broadly works with the families and friends of people struggling with substance use, which, as everyone here knows, is a huge number of people worldwide. We ended up with the number 400 million on this slide. I know we also had several different numbers yesterday. It's a hard number to pin down, but it is a huge number of people, and the families and loved ones of people who struggle are often very deeply impacted as well. In this context, peer support can be a really useful resource to bring to the table, both because peer support is often accessible to families even when professional support is not, and because when families do access support, they often are very interested in hearing from people who have shared the same struggle that they are currently going through. So given that context, we wanted to see what the impact could be of offering peer-led support groups to families impacted by substance use. So in 2024, we established 5 peer-led support groups across the state of New York in the US. And all of these groups, as their curriculum, used the Invitation to Change approach. The ITC, the Invitation to Change, is an approach developed by our organization, and broadly it offers families concepts and skills to support a loved one in a collaborative and connected way, which is a very different message than more traditional ideas of confrontation and detachment that families often hear in this context. This is our Invitation to Change wheel, and this is how we orient people to what the Invitation to Change looks like. It's a helping model, and it's comprised of several different evidence-based strategies. So it includes tools from CRAFT, from motivational interviewing, and from acceptance and commitment therapy. It's been developed in a ground-up, iterative way, so we've been running trainings for many years now for families, and at each of these trainings we offer space for feedback to hear from families how the training went and how the model is landing and how we can continue to improve it. Additionally, to maximize dissemination of the model, all of the concepts in the Invitation to Change approach are presented in ways that are both understandable and that resonate with both lay people and with professionals. And when we train people in this approach, we don't differentiate in how we train lay people and professionals. As you can see here, there are 3 main sections in the Invitation to Change approach. We have helping with understanding in blue, helping with awareness in pink, and then at the bottom, helping with action. And then at the center also, we have a 4th central organizing idea, which is helping with practice. And helping with practice in this context is an encouragement for the people using the ITC to try new things, to try new tools, ways of thinking about themselves and their loved one. And it is also an invitation to bring self-compassion to the practice, to be able to make mistakes and try again and continue practicing. And we hope that by approaching practice this way in the training, the people who learn the ITC will also bring this self-compassion and patience to their family members as they practice new behaviors. So within each section of the ITC, there are multiple subsections. And all of these subsections are related conceptually to one another. So if we start with helping with understanding, which is where we start in trainings, our first subsection there is behaviors make sense. And that is that all behavior, including substance use, is motivated by reinforcement. And while substance use often brings with it very destructive consequences, it is also an understandable and a reasonable response to many human struggles. The other two concepts in this section grow directly from this idea of reinforcement. So our next idea we go through is one size doesn't fit all. What is reinforcing about substance use is going to be different for every person, as well as what change looks like is going to be different for every person on this journey. And then the last topic in this section is ambivalence is normal. So while we hope new behaviors are reinforcing on the path to change, older substance-using behaviors are also going to remain reinforcing, and so there's always going to be ambivalence when someone is working on changing their relationship to substance use. All three of these ideas together especially really help to destigmatize and make substance use more understandable, especially to family members who are often dealing with the direct consequences of it. Our next section is helping with awareness, and in this section we start here by helping families increase their self-awareness, including of their values as people and as helpers in this context. The next subsection is willingness, which invites families to act on these values and to act in line with these values. And this often includes decisions to stay connected to their loved one in this process, despite the pain and the difficulty of that decision and of that connection. The last topic in this section is self-compassion, in which we invite families to regard themselves with compassion and with empathy on this journey. And the final section is helping with action along the bottom there, and that contains more traditional tools of positive communication and of behavioral reinforcement. So that's a quick overview of the invitation to change approach, a very quick drive-by. This is a slide that we often share in informational talks that we provide ahead of the start of ITC groups. We hold these talks to give people a better sense of what happens in these groups before they commit to joining a 15-week-long group. And here's where we really try to encapsulate some of the things that I just shared with you, the first way we kind of start to present these ideas to families who are interested in the groups. So we say here, what do ITC groups offer to attendees? And some of the things we hope they offer are new ways to understand substance use, new ways to understand motivation and what change looks like, as well as an invitation to become more aware of yourself. And here it says a willingness to become more aware of yourself, but it's really an invitation to be willing, to engage with themselves, to allow in pain, and to practice new skills in this context. And then lastly, and very foundationally, we hope these groups offer a space for compassion, for kindness, and for hope. So to return to our pilot group, we launched 5 groups. Each group ran for 15 weeks, and each group was completely free to participants. Also, as part of joining these groups, we provided each participant with a free workbook that had the complete curriculum for the invitation to change approach. All of the leaders of the groups also had a version of this workbook that had the same material as all of their group attendees, as well as additional materials on how to lead ITC groups. And the goal with these groups being free and with providing these materials was to make it as easy as possible for people to access these materials and for leaders to lead these groups and to have a sense of support from us as they were leading these groups. So in addition to providing these materials, we also offered check-in meetings every other week with our group leaders. They could check in with our ITC trainers, and they could also check in with each other and collaborate with each other on how to continue to navigate leading these groups. So through our outreach efforts, we were able to enroll in total 112 people in this program. Oops, wrong button. We evaluated the program by providing attendants a survey before their first group and after their last group. And on the next slide, I'll present the results from the 31 participants who completed both the pre and the post survey. And so for those 31 people, we were able to directly compare what their pre-survey looked like and what their post-survey looked like, and then see how things changed for them over the course of their time in the group. This change could be in one of 2 ways. There was favorable change, which we defined as people learning new skills or feeling like things were getting better, and unfavorable change, which was the inverse of that. This slide has the 4 areas of most significant change for the people who participated in these groups. So to walk through it one by one, we can start over on the left, your left, with use of invitation to change skills. So 77% of respondents increased their use of invitation to change skills between the first group and the last group, and 0% decreased their use of these skills. Then our next column over, we have 40% of respondents reported a decrease in the severity of the problems caused by their loved one's substance use, while 10% of respondents reported an increase in the severity of these problems. Our third column over is we have about 71% of respondents had a decrease in their symptoms of depression as measured on a standardized depression scale, while about 13% had an increase in these symptoms. And then our last column, surprisingly to us, about 71% of respondents reported a decrease in the amount that they were able to attend to other personal responsibilities in their lives, which included attendance to other family members and to housekeeping tasks. This measure was intended to be one of self-care, and this was an interesting one to look at because in the invitation to change approach, self-care skills we teach focus much more on skills around self-awareness and of attendance to personal values. So the invitation to change skills that people learn wouldn't necessarily set the stage for changes in this specific metric for self-care. However, when we look at some of the qualitative feedback we received, we do have people sharing that they found it especially useful to be invited to increase their self-care and to attune to themselves more. So in our bottom quote there, this is one of my favorite pieces of feedback that we received. Someone said, "Never have I been mandated to care for myself with such interest and follow-up." And that was really wonderful to hear. We also had a lot of feedback from people that it was especially powerful to be in a space where their struggle was one that was shared by the other group members. And this, again, highlights the benefits of peer support in a support group context. So what we took from this pilot group overall was, first of all, that these types of skills-based peer-led support groups were both acceptable and helpful to family members. It was particularly encouraging to us that these changes that we saw were in a context that was not professionally driven. So the experiences family members had here that had things changing for the better for them came from leadership from their peers and engagement from their peers, which offers a different avenue of support for families who, as I mentioned before, often will never access professional support in this struggle. Some of the limitations to note about this pilot study were, one, that it was a pilot study and so there was no control group. Additionally, the people who filled out the pre and post surveys were a self-selecting group of participants, and so in this study we couldn't report on everyone's experiences in these groups, just our respondents. And then lastly, it was a small sample size, and so as of now, we don't have a good sense of how this will generalize to other communities. But moving forward, our goals as an organization are to continue to build on these findings. We want to continue to test the efficacy of the invitation to change, and we're really interested in increasing the sustainability and the scalability of these support groups. One of the things I'm particularly hoping for is that we're able to set up these groups in a way that they're able to continue past the point when our organization is able to be there directly supporting them in the communities. One of the other things we're looking towards is creating protocols of different durations. So these groups were 15 weeks long. People really liked them. 15 weeks is also kind of an intimidating amount of weeks to go into. So we're currently piloting a 4-week support group. That's also been going very well. It's a lighter touch on the concepts, but people have been really enjoying it. And that's it, actually. Here's my last slide. It was really wonderful to talk to you all. Please feel free to come speak with me after or to email me. I also have a bunch of flyers going through our different resources, and I'm always happy to talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and I think we can allow for 1 or 2 questions. So maybe just one question that came into my mind was that you had, I think, about more or less 1/4 of all participants where you had pre and post data. So were there any dropouts from the group, or how come you didn't receive data from the others?
Yes. There were a few different things that contributed to that, it only being a subsection. One is we did have drop-off. We saw the most significant drop-off after the first two groups. We get the sense that people come to the first few groups and some of them are like, this is awesome, and some are like, I have too much going on in my life, I can't do this right now. It was also, we're still working on improving the methods we use to get people to fill out the post-group survey. They were much less likely to fill out the post-group survey because it was sent to them after the group had ended, and a lot of people were like already doing other things in their lives. So in the future, we're having those surveys be administered in the last meeting itself, and we hope that increases our response rates.
It definitely should. Okay, are there any further questions?